right, recording in progress, and now we are good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, karibu sana to the Ask Me Anything Kennon Mbae session, and here we are talking everything and anything to do with personal finance. So whether be debt, whether be investments or savings, or you're planning for your retirement, or you're planning for that nice holiday, or you're thinking about that good anniversary that is coming up, or whether you have that type of shoe that when it is raining, wewe na maji na socks mnashikana pale kama you know whether you have any question that you want to tackle about finance, this is the right place for you to be. As always, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Paul Edward Mongi. I am currently a financial trainer at Mwalimu Biashara, and we are happy to be here to be able to guide us so that we may be able to elevate our finances. I normally like to call myself the recovering spender. And the reason why I do that is because I had, or rather I am recovering from a spending syndrome. Sisi ni wale pesa ilikuwa inaingia kwa mfuko and it is like burning you. It is either one person to stay in the pocket. It is either me, my hand, or the money. And more often than not, it was my money that was suffering day in, day out. But until that time, I was able to come through these tips that you're going to be sharing, not all of them today, but in subsequent webinars, and also as we continue the interactions, that I realized that I had a problem, and that problem, if I was not able to sort it out, which I'm currently still sorting it out, then ingekuwa a very, very big thorn in my flesh, or can I say a big thorn in my wallet. And that is why we're here. We're here not because you are perfect. We're here because you can be able to share these experiences that can be able to elevate us to the next level. A wise man once told me that you are not here in this world to make all the mistakes, but if you are able to learn from the mistakes of others, then at least you're 50% there. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we're here. We're going to be sharing some of the questions that we asked our Kibetians so that we may be able to have this amazing interaction. So it's the last week of the month. Whether you've been sorted out, whether you have not, worry not. We are here to ensure that you give you the right financial knowledge in order for you to progress on in the next level that you're having. So, who is Mwalimu Biashara and why should you care? So, at Mwalimu Biashara, we do run a curriculum that is certified by NITA, that we've been able to take through more than 200 people. And through this curriculum, we've seen certain behaviors and certain processes that people go through in their personal financial journey. And this is what I'm going to be taking through in the next around 5 to 7 minutes, so that I can be able to touch at least 30 to 40 seconds of each and every stage, so that you can be able to understand what is this thing that we call personal finance, and why is it important not only for me, not only for you, sorry for that, but for each and every person. So whether you're at home, whether you're there with your spouse, or whether you're living by yourselves, or you're in that nuclear setting where you have your kids and your grandchildren and everyone, this personal financial journey is very important for us. So we like to start with stage number 1, which is your current financial health. As always, that step where you normally go and take when you feel like, for example, right now, umetoka umenyeshewa kidogo and you feel your body is not feeling right. You slept and then you slept kidogo on your neck. Everything has a current financial status that you want to upload. So the thing that we want to start with is, we ask you, what is your current financial health? Where are you with your finances? Is it in a positive state? Are you in the green side, which you normally call it the positive? Are you in the red side, which is a negative? And how can we help you to come to that state of realization where you can be able to elevate your personal finances? Then you go to stage number 2, which is your relationship with money. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in this particular webinar because you have a certain relationship with Mwalimu Biashara. We are here to help you to elevate your finances. And in the same manner, what does your money do for you? Are you in a good state? Are you not talking with your money, or are you directing your money to tell it exactly where it's going? Our financial coach normally tells us that within that area, within that time frame that you're getting your money, at least allocate, even if it's half a day of whatever time that you're having, whether in the weekday or the weekend, plan your finances according to how you want it to go, so that when that money hits your bank or your wallet or whatever means that you get it, hakuna kubishana na hiyo pesa, ni wewe kuja unaenda pale, you're going there, and you're going there, and that's how you're able to direct your money. Stage number 3, as I've said, you're here to help you to focus your plans, and that is something that I've alluded to. As the number of people that you're here in this webinar, around 6, around 7, we have Virginia, we have Joram, we have also Kennon. Each and every person is different. And we cannot be able to come and tell you this is the blueprint or lazima pesa yako ifanyie hivi, but you have your own plans. How can we be able to help you achieve that? Then you go to stage number 4. Can we talk about debt? Can we talk about good debt and bad debt? And even some of the questions I'm sure that our financial coach will be tackling, we are going to be looking at these certain aspects about debt, what it is all about, and how can I be able to circumvent it. Then you go to something called savings. Do we have emergency funds? Do we remember those piggy banks that we normally had, those mikebe zenye tulikuwa nazo back in the day, where we usually used to keep the 10 bob, the 3 bob, the 5 bob, the kengori kile kikubwa, and then once you bust it open and you see the amount of coins coming out of there, you felt like you're the richest man in Babylon. So what can we talk about savings and how does savings affect us? Then after savings, we take it to the next chapter, which is investments. How can you be able to start investing like a pro? Our financial coach tells us that if you want to reach that wealth status, it's not all about savings. It is more about to do with the investments that you're having. So worry not, even if you have not yet investments, or whether if you have investments na umezitoa na ukakula, don't worry. How can you be able to start all over again and ensure that you are able to be on track when you talk about wealth? Then you go to stage number 7, which is all about risk and returns. This is something that we normally dwell on because most of the investments that people talk about, they normally talk about the positive returns. Weka hii pesa hapa and you will get 200% of returns in the next 2 weeks. Ulisikia wapi? Because with that level of return, then there is an equal measure of a risk on that other side that someone does not tell you. And at Mwalimu Biashara, we are here to tell you that we will give you the right information when it comes to returns and also when it comes to something called risk. Then you go to stage number 8, which is retirement and building your investment portfolio. At Mwalimu Biashara, we say that when it comes to retirement, it is not about the age that you retire. It is about the wellness and the mindset that you set aside that can be able to prepare you for retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing that I want us to do here in this particular webinar is, can you be able to set aside some X amount of money that can be able to take care of us in our later years so that we will not be a burden not to the society but also to our family members? Can you be able to create something, set aside some X amount of money and do everything to do with retirement? And even if you feel like you're still young to do it, you're on the right place in order for you to start this journey. And then stage number 9, the environment and your finances. What does this mean for us? We remember when we have different tournaments, when, for example, right now we are looking at the political landscape, or we are looking at how the CBK is telling us and different things about the environment, whether it be political, social, economical, different aspects have different changes in our finances. And what does that mean? And then stage number 10 is the last one. We put it all together and we can comfortably say that we've given you the right financial knowledge that can be able to elevate your financial journey. But as always, our financial coach normally tells us that personal finance is 20% knowledge and 80% behavior. So all this is around 20 to around 50%. So how can we be able to ensure that you get to that sweet spot of around 80% that can be able to take you to the next journey? So I take it back to the audience before we welcome our financial coach so that he can give us one or two things or something to say, and then we can be able to dive into the questions. In which particular stage do you feel this is the most pressing stage that I am in? You can probably just go to the chat section and put it there. You can ideally say, I think stage number 2, I want us to dwell there. If you're going to be having the next webinar series before we close the year, kindly let's dwell there on your relationship with money. Or maybe it's something to do with investments. Just go to the chat section and tell me, Edward, I think number 6, hapo kuna kizungumkuti kidogo, or even number 5. And feel free to choose as many options as you would. So I will be here just checking on the chat section to see what the responses will be, and then we can be able to proceed on with the same. So kindly just go to the chat section, tell us between stage number 1 and stage number 10, which one do you feel is the most crucial stage that you would like us to tackle, and then we can see how we can be able to do so. So kindly, let's check it out, and then I will be here on standby to be checking the messages that will be streaming in. So nothing as yet. That is fine. Let us see who else who wants to open the floor with maybe something. I can see one chat already coming in. Thank you so much. Gloria Corio. Hi, Gloria. How are you? Welcome to this Money Talks Wealth Wednesday webinar. And she says, stage number 6, hapo kwa investment kidogo. I think I need a bit of coaching. Thank you so much, Gloria. We shall be telling you more about it as we proceed with this particular webinar. Mr. Joram, thank you so much. He is our lead at the sandbox, and thank you, Joram, for joining for this particular session. Joram is telling us stage number 6, setting up the infrastructure for investments. He's giving us even nice nomenclature, infrastructure for investments. So that is the double I. Yes, I have an idea about the investments, but the proper infrastructure around it. Thank you, Joram, for that. We shall be looking into that as well. Eric Miner, thank you so much for joining in as well. Unatuambia stage number 8 na stage number 6. Stage number 8, hapo kwa retirement kidogo, inaweza kuwa nyuma kidogo. Don't worry not, we're here to support you in the best way we can. And then also stage number 6, I can see stage number 6 has been a bit of a thorn, and I think we can be able to plan something in the course of the coming weeks that can be able to touch heavily on investments. Any more responses? Not as per yet, but yes, feel free to continue sharing your responses. And maybe at this juncture, you could probably allow me to welcome our financial coach. But before that, I can see we have one more. Virginia anatuambia mimi zangu ni tatu, mambo ni matatu. Stage number 2, stage number 6, and stage number 7. That is my relationship with money, investments, and retirement, and risk and returns. Let me see if I got that right. Stage number 2, exactly. So that is my relationship with money, or your relationship with money, investments, and risk and returns. Virginia, do not worry. You're in safe hands because we're here to give you the right knowledge that can be able to transform that. Haba na habu jaza kibaba, one step at a time. So we'll ensure that we give you a bit of breadcrumbs here and there that can be able to sustain you, and then we can be able to follow in subsequent webinars or even sessions that we're going to be planning as we proceed on with this. Without further ado, allow me to welcome our financial coach. I can see he is here with us, ready for us to be able to tackle in and give us more insights into this amazing session. So, Kennon, if you can be able to hear me on that end, feel free to dive in.
Loud and clear, Edward. It's great to have us all on board. Edward, please tell me my voice is okay, my video is okay on your side.
Voice and video, they're very much okay.
Excellent, excellent. Asanteni sana for joining in this webinar. Thanks for that introduction, Edward. And thanks, guys, for engaging us in this. We will usually take your feedback very seriously. We listen to what you tell us. It might take some time, but we eventually will come back and address the pain points. And it's great to see what we've had today. So I'd like to welcome us to this session again as a host. My name is Kennon Mbae. Now, today, this week, Edward came up with something interesting. He said, Kennon, why don't you go out there and create something called Ask Kennon Anything? Of course, I had to think through that very carefully. But then I thought, actually, it's a very good idea. What we are doing is we are throwing it out there. Yes, we are financial experts, wealth experts. Actually, at this point, let me also mention something. I would have mentioned it at the end, but I see maybe it's a good time to bring out why this is interesting. There's an organization called Sandbox International. Sandbox is a group of experts. We sit at CMS Africa House, that is on Chania Avenue. Now, what is this? This is everybody comes in with their own expertise. You have an IT guy, a marketing guy, you have a social media, you have a lawyer, you have HR, everything, IT, name it, accountant, everything. Mwalimu Biashara, we are part of the Sandbox as the wealth management experts. Why that is important is, I said, now that this has come out, we may not have all the answers, but we are the experts in this. Why don't we just go out and do it? This is the first of the many series to come where we say, Ask Kennon Anything, and we share smart nuggets to personal financial management. Already, from the questions that have come and from the engagements we've had here, we can tell where things are gravitating. Investments is a big one. And you can be sure we are going to be doing that as Edward has said. The only agenda we have today, we have 5 questions that have come. If you feel you have a question you want to add, please go to the chat section and add it there. Anything, as long as it's finance, just ask. Let's see what comes out of this. Now, question number 1. One person asked us earlier, he said, I have my 3-month emergency fund saved up and retirement contribution through my employer where I match. Now, how do I start my investment journey with a contribution of 5,000 shillings per month? Second question, which are the best vehicles I can consider to grow my money in a period of 10 to 20 years? You can see, very good question around investments. So we'll try as much as possible be very spot on because personal finance is extremely wide. This is a scenario of someone who is in a very good place if you ask me. Number 1, what is an emergency fund? Think about if your income stopped coming tomorrow for whatever reason, and we are not praying for that. But if your income stopped coming tomorrow, whether you're employed or in business, you have investments, it just stops coming. How many months would you survive? Now, don't give me the answer, just think through it. How many months would you survive? This person is able to survive 3 months. So an emergency fund is some money you've put aside. Should anything unforeseen happen, you're able to keep moving. If it's a job, you've lost a job, you can pick up and get another job. If it is a business you're running, it went through some hardships, you take some time to adjust. Point number 1, it's important to have an emergency fund. This is 6 months of your living expenses. You and I need to be able to survive for 6 months. Now, a friend here is able to survive for 3 months. First, that's a very good start. Try to build that up to 6 months. Where do you put this money? Go to any money market fund in the country. They are all listed in the Capital Markets Authority website. If you need help, we are able to help you and point you the right direction. If you have not started an emergency fund, please open a money market fund and put the money there. Now, must it be 6 months? No. Even if it's 2,000 shillings, 1,000 shillings, just start. This person has already started. This person is also now talking about they've saved up and they also have something else, a retirement contribution. So, Kennon, what is this? In simple terms, all of us go through a certain cycle. We start young, we don't have any income. We start getting into the world of earning money where you're not earning a lot of money. You keep growing until you peak. You get to a place where you're earning your most. Mostly you'll find is between 35 and 50. 35 and 55, that's when you earn the most. Now that's a normal curve. What happens after 55, depending on how you planned yourself, you find your income reduces. For many reasons. Maybe you're not as strong, you're not as healthy, maybe things have gone up quickly. You end up being at a place where your income has reduced. That is what we are saying. The retirement plan helps you at that time. Our listener here or our audience person here is already thinking about that. If you have a good employer, they can actually assist you in that. They have pension plans they can set up for you and you save. So everything looks okay on this question. Kennon, what if I don't have a retirement plan? You can start one on your own. They're called individual pension plans. And by the way, everything I'm saying today, you can always contact us for more information. I'm just answering the question as it is. Because everything I'm saying is a whole offshoot to a completely different world. But you can start something called an individual pension plan. Good. This person now is asking, I want to start my investment journey. Contribution of 5K per month. I'm taking it, the pension they're contributing is 5,000 a month. At this point, you may not know how much it is. Okay? But also, there's something interesting. Period of time. This is so important in investments. This person already has the horizon. They say in a period of 10 to 20 years. That changes the options. There are some options which if you probably you have only 6 months, you get limited options. But when you have a longer horizon, you start getting more options. To the question, the best vehicles would be uh, as a start, you always think short term, mid term, and long term. That's the basic thinking process when you're doing your investments. The second thing you think about when you're doing an investment, you ask yourself risk and return. That is to say, there are some investments which are riskier than others. So even as you're creating your investment vehicles, you create what you call an investment portfolio. When Edward was introducing our classes and he talked about there's a class number 8, number 6, 7, and 8, we focus on helping you build an investment portfolio. When you consider those factors, then you start considering your individual circumstances. It's called fact finding. How old are you? Where are you getting your money? What is your risk profile? How many dependents do you have? How is your structure at home? Are you looking at inheriting something? All those things define your personal circumstances. Now, all these things come into play when you're deciding the best vehicles. You notice, I'm not nailing a particular investment vehicle, and that's completely on purpose. Investment advice is not given generally. Investment advice is given depending on your objectives. What do you want to achieve? How much? For how long? Investment advice is given individually. Now, I'm not ducking this question. I'm telling you the exact truth. I'll tell you a small story. When I was young and I went to investment advice and asked them this question, I was thinking, why are you taking me around in circles? But after some time, I came to understand we can give you general information like I've given you, risk and return, short-term, mid-term, long-term, your personal circumstances, your time horizon. However, to be able to advise the exact vehicles, you will need a little bit more time. But having said that, a very, very common ones, especially when the person says to and also saw a question that was talking about an infrastructure system of investing. Give me the framework. Give me the framework, I'll put in the meat. All right? You would think about money in the bank, cash at bank. You would think about money market funds or unit trust for that matter, or no money market funds. Then you also think about treasury bills and treasury bonds. Those three categories are considered low risk, low return. It is safe to start. It is easy to start. The risk is not very high. However, the return is also not very high. Okay, banks will give you 2 to 4%. Treasury bills, treasury bonds, count anything between 9 and 12%. Okay, those are the kind of returns that you're going to get in that realm. A unit trust will give you between, again, 9 and 12, depending on which one you're playing. By the way, when you say 9 to 12, what do we mean? It means if you put 100 shillings at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, if it's 12%, you get 12 shillings extra for every 100. The whole year, remember, the whole year. That's how you look at investment returns. The next set of investments you can consider is you can go into real estate, you can buy shares in organizations. Those are considered mid-risk, mid-return. It's a bit, yeah, you're now getting a little bit more risky, but you can get a slightly better return. Real estate, especially good ones, can give you 15% easily, yeah? 12 to 15%, okay? If we talk about shares in the stock market, these ones will range between 5 and even 20%. So you see the return is starting to increase, but the risk is also increasing. Then there is now the upper one. Or before I go there, there are new ones that have come called special funds. You had Oak, you had Mansa X. Those are actually one of the best because they give you a high return, but the risk is slightly lower. The only thing is they need a lump sum. Like I know some of them will tell you the minimum you can invest is 250,000 shillings. So that's the thing. Okay. Let's go to the high risk, high returns. You can consider putting your money now in more risky issues. You can decide, I want to run my own business. It works. But the ups and downs of running a business it definitely is riskier, but you get a better return. You can easily get 30 to even 100%. That means you can put 1 million shillings at the beginning of the year into a business which you run well. At the end of the year, you'll have made another million. That's what you mean by 100%. The very risky ones on top, you can talk about cryptocurrency and you can talk about forex trading. That is a spectrum of when you consider investment vehicles. I'm trying to see, let me talk about also horizons. When you go to invest, as a rule of thumb, investment and gambling are different. Why do I say that? Gambling, you don't have to put it for long. And another question, is gambling an investment option? That's a question for another day, and the answer is no. But for now, investment is something that you need to give time. Most investments, most of them, people tell me, what about forex trading? I can take a position today. Actually, right now, in the next 5 minutes, I get my money and I move on. Granted, but you need to be there for a longer period of time for you to get your return. So always remember, investments, you give it time. It's a very heavy question. It has so many angles to it, and I've tried as much as possible to touch the main things around this question. You'll easily see it is not possible to nail it in one sitting. All right. But again, I'm happy to take any more questions and concerns as they come. But I have a few more minutes because we need to end by 9 o'clock. So let me go to the second question. The second question was, I found it very interesting. Someone asked me specifically, Kennon, what's one money habit that changed your financial story? Second part, how can I start building mine this November? I've not saved anything since the start of the year because I don't have a steady source of income. My story is long, like many others, but let me summarize to what I've been asked. If I was to pick one money habit that has changed my financial story, I'll put reference to my own career. All through, by the way, I've been a career person. I've been employed for over 20 years. I've worked in very many organizations. I've worked as a finance person. So I know corporate life. I knew you get a salary. I knew how things go. I knew for 20 plus years. 4 years ago, I decided to step out and start my own business, or rather continue a dream I had, which is what I'm doing today, financial literacy. That transition from employment to what we can call Juakali gave me the most, I don't know, the deepest experience I can ever get in my finances, because I moved from earning good money. Let me not talk the figures, but good money, to a place where there's one morning I woke up and I did not have 200 shillings. 200 shillings. I remember looking for 200 shillings to pay for an Uber to take my daughter to school. I remember it was raining. I didn't have that money. That experience taught me something about ring fencing your income. If there's one thing that I would say, make sure you make money. Of course, don't steal, don't do it the wrong way, but whatever you do, please do not lose your ability to make money. Now, everything else, if I was to give one advice, it would be that, because I contrasted the two. I came face to face to what it means that I can't do what I want to do because I don't have the money. So for me, that would be the one thing I'll say that changed my financial story. Very many things come out of that, because again, I came to understand that you must not eat food worth 800 shillings. You can actually eat food worth 120 shillings and it works. So you see, it brought that part of income reduction. Of course, my income improved and I moved on. Okay, it's not a gloomy story all the same, but it was an experience which taught me to adjust so many other things. That's what happened for me, and that is my one story. There are so many others I can tell, but I thought to tell only one. What can I do in November to start saving? Because, and again, look, I don't have a steady source of income. Sounds like me at that time. Um, the human mind, and we teach this in our curriculum. The human mind, the way it is designed for finances, if you tell your mind you want to make 1,000,000 shillings, or tell your mind you want to make 100 shillings, the way the human mind is designed, it interprets those two facts the same. It is us who put limitations, but the mind, whatever you feed your mind, how it processes to give you what you've just said, it's exactly the same. So for the person who says don't have a steady source of income, let's build ways to make money. Again, when we teach personal finance, there's that aspect that tells you save, save, save. And for sure, we even have a full curriculum and lesson about savings. But savings can only do so much. That's the truth. There's a place savings would help you. Reducing your expenditure is not how to do it. So after you have lived, the least you can do, there's a certain level you get and you can't go lower. You're only left with increasing your income. So to my friend who raised this question, let's talk about how you can make more money. Now, in Mwalimu Biashara, of course, we are a commercial organization. For this to help you, would encourage you to invest your time and money. We don't shy away from telling you that. Because if this is going to help you, all we are doing here is for free. This is our introduction, but we have put together very good solutions for SMEs at the sandbox. We think about the entrepreneur. We think about the employee. We think about different people. Anytime you hear us inviting you to pay some money to get this, that's not what we called you. However, for it to help you, it's important to invest your time and your money. In December, we have something called a side hustle breakfast. At the sandbox, we've teamed up with other experts. There's an expert who does sales. There's an expert who does strategy and helping people come with our businesses. And there is me who does wealth management. What are we doing? We buy you breakfast. You come in and we help you create a side hustle. We are calling it Build Your Business in a Day. It is a way for you to come and get this question, because Kennon, you're telling me to increase my income. How? We have that for you. It costs you only 1,500 shillings. Inside there, we'll give you a breakfast. Let's come, we talk. It's a Saturday morning. Edward is going to give you a form towards the end. If any of these things interest you, just tick there and we talk about that at the time. Question number 3, and I'm seeing no more questions coming in. I'm assuming the ones I have are the ones I'm dealing with. Question number 3. It's kind of connected to question number 2. Which gig or side hustle should I go for next? Obviously, you can quickly see this is a very good discussion for the side hustle breakfast I've talked about. But at this point, let me give some pointers around this idea of gigs and everything. You start by identifying the problem. What problem are you solving? What is the pain? What pain are people feeling? That's number 1. Any gig you do, it starts from what problem are you solving? Number 2, what solution are you giving? And number 3, how differently are you giving it? Because we all go to banks, but why are there more than 30 banks in Kenya? It's partly because of this. There's a way a certain bank does their things, banking. Why do we have so many matatus on the road? And there's a certain matatu we all wait for. Some people say it has to come, wacha nichelewe. Of course, the younger generation. But what is that matatu doing to provide transport in a way that speaks to that pain of that young person? The young person wants a certain feeling. It's all about what is the problem, what is your solution, and how uniquely are you providing it? Before I leave this question, just rest assured, there is no, rarely will you find a business that someone else is not doing. Rarely. It's very unlikely that you start something and no one else in this world is doing. So does it mean that we don't start? No, it means we go through that process. This is the problem. This is the solution. This is how I'm going to solve it uniquely. That's the first thing I want to say about all this gig story. Then the other thing to say is, please get help. I'm a Kenyan. I've worked with Kenyans. There's a part of us which feels we can actually do it on our own. I respect that. But what if you could do it faster, easier, with less risks, and someone to actually help you along the way? Even if they charge you, which they will, I always say, please get help. Again, I will say it clearly, you can get help from so many places. You can get a consultant, you can browse the internet, but get help. Get in the habit of getting help. I can tell you, if you need help with your business, come to Sandbox. I've seen it work. I've been there for a while and I can see it work. I'm seeing how this whole entrepreneurial spirit and process, it is so well thought out and it's so affordable, you won't believe it. So I'll say before you go to your next gig, please do that. But having said that, when you look at the gigs, you again look at the industry. What industry do you want to get yourself in? Is it food industry? Is it clothing industry? Is it transport? Is it beauty? Is it consulting? Is it understand the industry that you want to get in and make sure that you immerse yourself to understand how that one works. So is there a particular business, Kennon? Is there one particular business? The answer is not necessarily. There are so many. You just need to get the one that leans closely to you. I think the best thing to do with this question is please come and listen to us at that time and we'll be able to help you. Right. I have 2 more questions to go. And again, I'm looking at any other questions that are coming in. And I'm also looking at my time here. Oh, I have only 10 minutes to go and I'll be done by that time. If me and my spouse earn differently and I earn more than my husband, how do we agree on savings, on bills and investments without tension? Now, again, very many angles to this. Let me first clarify. This is not a session on marriage counseling. So however you want to run your marriage, that is different. However you want to run your household, that's different. But we'll say a couple of things that we've seen in our curriculum or in our engagements with clients. When Edward was going through those parts, if you notice, there was a part that was called number 2, your relationship with money. That is a whole lesson. Because here, if you're a family, let's assume you got married at 25. I'm just putting it out there. Let's also assume we've been together for 5 years. I'm just again assuming because it's not specific here. Of course, you can put your numbers there. It means for 25 years, you've been running your money a certain way based on your upbringing, based on your parents, based on your own needs, based on who you are, very many things. And of course, your partner has been doing the same. Now, here you are, you're meant to come and spend money together. You can quickly see where the tension is there. And most times we tell people, understand your relationship with money as an individual. That lesson helps you individually. Wewe sasa. You understand what makes me tick. Why do I look at things a certain way? Once you understand relationship with money, then you start understanding, no wonder I find it very difficult to think about businesses because I don't know. I've never been exposed to it. I actually don't know much about it. But my spouse sings business every day. That's what we call relationship with money. So the first thing before I answer this question is to get your relationship with money right. Of course, at the end of our engagement, we give you a proper report Kennon, this is how your relationship with money looks like, and this is the best way to deal with it. Of course, in a situation like this, as a spouse, you can always compare those notes if you're comfortable. Another question, I think this is also, I earn more than my husband. We are Africans. And being Africans, this means something. We tell people it is possible, very possible, for ladies to earn more than men. That is completely clear. We have seen it in the world. And the first thing is to come to terms with it. Just come to terms with it, such that it is no longer the places where the husband must earn more than the wife, not necessarily. The thing is how you manage it. Of course, as I said, this question is bordering on how then do you run. There are many coaches who need to come into this question, but from a financial perspective, gender doesn't matter. Whether it's the husband earning more, the wife earning more, it doesn't matter. There are people who say, and what I've seen work the best is get something called a personal allowance. And how personal allowance works is, okay, first of all, let's say there are two pay slips or there are two sources of income. It doesn't matter. Now, you see, at this point, it doesn't matter who's higher than the other. We've already dealt with that. One way people do is this is what some people go out plainly and everybody knows everything in the household. For me, that would be the best. Again, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm just giving my opinion. Why is that? Why is that? Why am I saying that? Because money is money. The moment you earn money from wherever you earned and you bring it to the family, it ceases to be yours. It now becomes ours. Put it in one pot. Then decide something called personal allowance. You, the husband, we're going to give you an amount of money and we'll never ask you questions about it. It's your money, spend it as you wish. It's called no questions asked. And of course, for the wife, you do the same. That's one way to reduce this tension on this question. Every human being, we all want freedom. We all want autonomy. That's what it is. But you can't have autonomy with everything. Then, especially when you're in a family setting, you have to agree on some things. So for me, I've seen this personal allowance thing works. Must it be the same? No. It's you guys to decide. You can start as equal, then you keep changing it. Then husband wants to take the wife out for coffee. Which money do I use? My personal allowance or money? Those are the details that makes this one very complicated. But the moment you create your own autonomy first, you create a way to say, let me just enjoy my life. Tensions reduce. Then whatever is left there, now start planning how much of it is going to be saved, not considering whose it was. The reason I'm saying that is things in life change. So here is a situation where I'm earning more than my husband. Assuming this person, and I'm just putting it out there, assuming this person was in the NGO world and she was making very good money. At the beginning of this year, you see what USA did. I have friends who actually lost jobs. Now, assuming it is the lady who's lost the job, so what happens to this question then? It starts to become very complicated. But if it was a concept of all of us are working from the same pot, you've just lost your job, utatafuta ingine. Meanwhile, we work with mine. That thing goes on like that. But again, has a lot of questions inside there that are happening there. Simon is asking us a question before I come to the last one. At what point do I realize I have done enough savings, a side hustle, enough emergency fund, and therefore I need to save? I do not need to save anymore. I can now explore the world using my money on various projects without worrying about cash flow, financial crisis. Wonderful question there, Simon. When I started my career, I was earning 14,000 shillings a month. Simon, I'm coming to your question. And I was actually living in Nairobi. Yes, I wasn't married then. I was living alone. But with 14,000 shillings, I found my way. Let's put it that way. I found my way. 10 years later, I got almost 10 times or even 20 times that amount. What changed, Kennon? If you're at 14, now you're at 200, that's an extra 185,000 shillings. Iko wapi tuione? Why didn't you save 185,000? Because of what Simon is asking here. In personal finance, you get to a place where you decide this is the standard I want to live. Not because there's not more. There is always a bigger car. There's always something bigger. There's always. But you get to a place of contentment and say, I'm okay the way I am. It is very subjective, Simon. The thing we tell you is don't get lost in comparison. Man, I have so many stories I can tell you. I think let me squeeze this one in. I think I might have a minute or two to do that, maybe so. So I have just gotten promoted at work. In fact, I changed jobs. I moved from one job to another. So this new job I got, I came as a head of finance in that section. And one of the things we were given at that level is you're given a parking space. And it's labeled, this is your parking space. Now, the challenge is that time I was sharing my car, we were sharing the family car with my family. I didn't used to park the car. At that time, I used to be dropped by my spouse and she takes the car because she needed it. Now, look at the pressure of a new senior manager with a parking slot without a car. I found my way. That's a story for another day. But what I'm trying to bring to Simon is those things are real. It's so real that comparison can be an issue, but you decide, this is what I want, full stop. Now, the moment you get to that level, Simon, and you have an emergency fund when you're saying you want to save and you want to enjoy life, anytime you get an increment, split it into two. The first half, please put it in investments without question. And there are many types we can take you through, but put half of that in investments. The other half, enjoy your life. Buy a bigger phone. Take a longer holiday. Do whatever you want to do with the other half because we're human beings and we want to enjoy life. Only enjoy half of it. The other half, please put it in investments for future. Simon, I was trying to see if I've answered your question. Please let me know if that sorts you out. Great. As I go to the last question here that came before the class was what? Was this question about AAS? How do I prepare my daughters? One of them is in junior high school while the other is in college to handle money wisely during this coming festive season. Washafunga. That's term number 4. So it's called term number 4. It's running from November to January. How do I deal with that term to handle money wisely without them overspending on fun? This is a very good question because we are not talking personal finance at a very early age. Then I see one is in junior high school. That means they are probably 13, 14 there. Maybe 12, maybe 12 somewhere there. 12 somewhere there. The other one is in college. That would be 17, 18. First of all, those two age groups, the approach is different. Let's talk about the one in college. That's the one closer to the money. A couple of things you could think about and take it in very small bits, very simple small bits, is find touch points to help them learn one lesson at a time. I'll give you a very practical example. So my daughter is actually 19. So she's probably in this realm. At one point, she got a small attachment somewhere and she started getting money. Then I realized one thing that is so important to her is Wi-Fi. If you tell her to pay electricity, they'll tell you what a cut or steamer. If you tell her about food, she can eat whatever she wants to eat. But when you touch Wi-Fi, there's something you're saying. So I gave her the responsibility of sharing the Wi-Fi bill. That brought sense into her finances. and also brought in a lot of responsibility. She now knows when does Wi-Fi expire. She actually went a step further. She started looking for cheap options because she's sharing in that bill. And she says, why must we use this? What if we start using this? So give them specific touch points that relate to them. So for me, that was one idea that you can do. And then slowly, you can pick up in that attachment. Just tell her to do a 50, 30, 20 budget. 50% is for needs. Now that 50, her needs in that case was Wi-Fi. 30% is her wants. Then 20% is for her to save. We even went further to open a money market account, and it was a struggle. For her to take that 20% and put in money market was a struggle, I can tell you. But we stick to it until she starts getting it right. The younger one, again, maybe at the level at which they can understand. Junior high school, that's when they're starting to, again, think about money, but they are more malleable. At that point, they can listen better. I can tell you, I found that they can listen better than the college. Again, such simple things like a small piggy bank. Actually, go open a bank account. All these banks have bank accounts for junior people. Let her get that responsibility. You can give a small budget and a small, say, I'll be giving you 300 shillings, but let's budget for it. Let's plan how it will work. Okay, we need to put this here, put this here, put this here, and then make it fun. Make it a big thing that, oh yeah, let's come and do it together. You've done it great. Or you've put your money for sweets. Yes, go and enjoy your sweets. You're starting to plan those lessons early enough. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about the time that we have. I think there's no other question there. Again, let me just talk about a little bit about myself. I'm a co-founder of a company called Money Biashara. I'm a qualified accountant. I've done my MBA, my BCom. I've done my ACCAs. Basically, we've taken this idea of personal finance very, very seriously. As I've indicated, I've worked for over 20 years in various industries, and these are my interests. That's it from me. Before we go, I'll tell you, if you want these conversations that happen every so often, we have a community called Kibeti Community. Please scan of this. Edward is going to put the link in the chat. Join the Kibeti Community. A lot happens there. That is the closest I can tell you around how we can continue engaging. This is how to reach us. That's our email address. As I said, we are at CMS Africa, ground floor, experts at the sandbox. You can always reach us out. I'll take it back to Edward. Edward is going to put a link on the chat. If any of these things interest you, fill that link and we'll be able to talk to you. For you coming to this webinar, anything you choose will give you a straight 20% discount. Anything you choose in that list, whether it is the app we are running, we have an app called Kibeti, by the way. Whether it is that you want to do a side hustle breakfast, you want a course for your children, you want anything you want from us, for you joining this webinar today, we give you a straight 20% on that link that Edward is going to put in the chat. Asanteni sana, have a good one. Back to you, Edward.
Okay, so thank you so much, Kennon, for wow, that amazing session. Honestly, I think I've learned so much from the questions that our audience have shared through our Kibeti community, and also through the one that Simon has shared. As always, for us is to give thanks to each and every person. So allow me to take it in person. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Joram Minamo, and also Virginia, Louisa, and Angie for joining in. Some of them left, but as always, we like to thank you because this is time that we are very grateful that you have. You've shared it with us. So feel free to just click on the link so that you can share your feedback with us. We'd love to get your feedback about what would be of interest to you in terms of personal finances, because even as the close of the year, we want to ensure that we align ourselves with the proper knowledge so that come 2026, come Christmas period, we are in a better place than we were. Asanteni sana. This has been the Ask Kennon Anything, the AKA session. If it has been of interest, kindly just put a thumbs up on the chat section. We will love to get your feedback. Would you like us to do it again? And also, what topics would you like us to do? Feel free to just click the link. That will be able to give us a more detailed direction to see where we can be able to go with this. I think that's it from our side. It has been an amazing session. I have learned a lot from each and every one of us, as I've mentioned. And yes, looking forward to see you out there in our different events that we're going to be having and different sessions that we have. The engagement continues in our Kibeti community, and this link will be shared in the next couple of days so that you can be able to have visibility of it and get to share more about it. That's it from my end. I'll be the last one to leave. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the weekend, and happy new month of November, where we are looking to elevate our personal finances. Asanteni sana. Enjoy the rest of your night.